Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, Executive Editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with Bruckner's Fourth Symphony by Markus Poschner. Now, I've had marvelous things to say about symphonies number 8 and 6 and 0. This is a dud. It had to happen, right? This is just not good. Oh, Markus, I had such hopes for you. You were on such a roll. But, frankly, that's the problem with a series, and a series under one guy. First of all, there are many quotidian circumstances that may not go right. Sonics, the room, the humidity, the orchestra is out of sorts, the conductor is out of sorts. Everything has a possibility of going wrong. And then there's the conductor. No reason why you have to be equally good at all the Bruckner symphonies. Back in the day, conductors tended to pick and choose. They did the ones they felt strongly about, and they ignored the rest. They had standards. Now, we may disagree with those standards. We don't have to say that someone who says that, for example, Bruckner's Fifth is an albatross is right. But that's how they felt. And if that's how they felt, then they didn't do it. And therefore, they were only judged by the things they felt strongly about. Well, Poschner seems to be of the everything is equally wonderful school of Bruckner interpretation. But not all of his interpretations are equally wonderful. That's the problem. Now, this is the version of the Fourth that we all know and love, the normal version, I call it. I'm not going to give you dates and nonsense because it doesn't help. It's the normal version with the hunting scherzo. And you get as a coupling one of the from 1878 middle interim versions of the finale, which Bruckner never heard and never got played and is really lousy. It's a disorganized mess and sounds ridiculous. It's called the Volksfest or country fair finale. And that's where it belongs, on a merry-go-round at a country fair, and we can ignore it for the rest of our lives otherwise. But what's wrong with this? Well, it's rather similar to the dreadful Telemann interpretation in that, well, let's take it from the start, shall we? First movement, the horn doesn't sound right. I don't know, it doesn't sound like a horn. It sounds like an oboe or something. There's something strange about the timbre of the instrument and the sonics. There's no atmosphere whatsoever. It's supposed to be the forest, dawn, and sunrise, and all of those evocative things. There's nothing evocative here. It's as straight ahead and unatmospheric as anything you've ever heard. And then when the full orchestra bursts in, well, I shouldn't say bursts. I should say dribbles, because the orchestra dribbles in. You're in trouble right away because there just isn't enough brass. There isn't. The trumpets are weak, and the sound is all coagulated. It's it's like that. I could play samples of this. I have permission. It's more fun to do it my way. I'm sorry, folks, but I just have to because it makes the point, I think, a little bit more vividly. But no, the brass just don't sound well. In the slower passage, in the lyrical second subject, da-da-dum, ba-da-dum, bum. The contrapuntal clarity of the string playing is quite admirable. You hear all kinds of details and interparts. It's really rather nice. It really is. The only problem is it's also very stiff. It seems to be rather metronomic. It doesn't have the kind of genial sort of flow and Gemütlichkeit that we look for in that music. It's just not a very impressive performance. Now, the slow movement at 15 minutes goes quite well. I have to say, I like the way Poschner handles the slow movement because it doesn't drag. It's a real andante. And that's all you need to say about it. It moves along quite nicely. And I think it's the most effective movement of the symphony. The scherzo is a disaster. Oh, it happens so often with this stuff. And I don't understand why. I really don't understand why. At the climax, first of all, I mean, there are no climaxes, but let's assume for the sake of argument that there are climaxes, that the brass are actually present and they're actually going to play. Now, you don't have to do this like the Chicago Symphony under Barenboim. You just don't. You could do it like the Berlin Philharmonic under Joachim. I would take that. Because at the climax, the trumpets are going da 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 dum ba da 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 dum ba da da ba da ba da, and the trumpets are going da 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 like that. And underneath, it's just a triplet. Underneath, the trombones are going yum bum ba da da dum bum ba da da dum bum ba da da dum. There's supposed to be some rhythmic tension there. Well, here you hear neither the trombones nor much of the trumpets. And then when they cut off, the horns have the triplet rhythm. With the horns going all underneath it. You don't hear them at all. They might as well not be there. And that's inexcusable. It's absolutely inexcusable. And why, Mr. Poschner, do you allow that to happen? I don't understand it. I just don't understand it. I mean, the score couldn't be clearer. The dynamics couldn't be clearer. He does one of those, the recapitulation, one of those horrible diminuendos. They're going da 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 da. Then he goes with a crescendo again. Stupid. Ridiculous. No, it's just supposed to get bigger and bigger and bigger in one steady crescendo. The diminuendo just sucks the energy out of it. Oh my gosh, I despise this movement. You may have guessed that. Now, as for the finale, the one that is not the folk festival, the normal finale, it just, this is the finale that Bruckner revised 150 times in order to turn the symphony from a sort of first movement symphony into a finale symphony. And it's just a damp squib. You don't have to play it like Celibidache. It doesn't have to be ridiculous and grandiose, but it does have to have weight, a lot of weight. It has to have that kind of late Bruckner mysticism that up until now the symphony largely doesn't have. Because it's the movement that brings the symphony into later Bruckner. Now, I'd be curious, actually, to hear what Poschner does with the original version of the fourth. Maybe that will be more persuasive. Maybe he's just doesn't hear the work in the final form in which Bruckner left it. That's a possibility. I mean, it doesn't make the interpretation any better, but it's a possibility. At least it's an explanation. The problem is, of course, that even if we accept that and, as an apologia for the disaster, well, it's not a disaster, just the boringness that this is, then we have to ask ourselves, why do the brass play so poorly? Why are the balances so off? Why does the whole orchestra sound so small, so undernourished? The other symphonies, like the eighth had a similar basic approach. There's a lightness and a clarity and a propulsiveness, but there wasn't a lack of weight. There wasn't any sort of feeling of playing the music too lightly, of giving it short shrift. But here, the performance is just replete with that sort of thing. So I cannot recommend this. I am sorry. I wish it were not so. I've been rooting for this cycle. I wish it were better. And I hope the next release gets it back on track. I really do. And if I have any advice to these players, if it's not too late and they haven't already recorded anything, it's get your brass section together. Let them play. Let them dominate when they're supposed to dominate. Let them be timbrally distinctive. Let's hear all the different layers. I mean, you did it before. You know how to do it. So why not? Why not do it? So that's it, my friends. It's a disappointment. Keep on listening and take care.